first of all, absolute pleasure. Secondly, this is just a very, very difficult day. Very difficult day. I had to walk all the way from Aurora Mall to home. I had to walk like 10 miles home today because I was kicked out of the Aurora Mall. So it's been a very difficult day. Only to fall asleep and find out that Norm Macdonalds has died. Just the guy was my hero. The guy was my idol since I was 13 years old. When you think about like well, when you're a kid and you think about what you want to be when you grow up, right? The first thing that I wanted to be was an archaeologist. I was in love with dinosaurs, and remembering back, I thought I always wanted to be in the NBA, a basketball player, but that's actually not true. I wanted to be a comedian before I wanted to ever be in the NBA. David Letterman. I would stay up late and watch David Letterman. But I didn't. I knew that David Letterman was like you kind of dangerous, and you're staying up late at night to watch him, and you shouldn't be doing that. But it wasn't until Norm with Weekend Update that I fully understood like what a comedian is, right? And I think the first thing that I remember seeing of his was, I think Kevin Newman was still the anchor, but he had a skit about the Winter Olympics, and then how all the Winter Olympic sports sucked except for ice hockey. And as a sports fan, I completely related to that. And I was like 13, 14 years old, and now I'm whatever the hell I am, 42. And I've even thought about this day. I thought about like, what if someday Norm Macdonald is not going to be with us? What's that going to be like? But I didn't think it was going to be as soon as this. And it's like losing a family member. And I don't know what to say. I followed his career from 1993, and I felt like at some points I felt like he was my own little Norm Macdonald. Nobody else was. When he would go on Dennis Miller, when he would go on Dennis Miller's radio show, 2008, around that period, and he was completely out of it. He was completely out of show business. He was not in show business for the most part. He was just doing stand-up, and those appearances on that Dennis Miller radio show were just unbelievable. They were so good. And I know I'm not the only one. I know he meant a lot to a lot of people. So he's not my own little Norm Macdonald. I didn't even know the guy. I saw him twice. Comedy Works. I think they were both at the South Comedy Works here in the Denver area. And I think he looked at me twice. One time, I was going to the bathroom. I was drinking heavily. I went to the bathroom and then I came back and it was like the seating was strange. So I went to sit down and I almost fell down. And I interrupted his set and he kind of looked up at me for a second. And I used to have a Twitter account and I would try to message him on Twitter about gambling. He never responded. Just a highly relatable guy. I think that was the key to his. I honestly, I think he's going to go down as the greatest comedian of all time. And it just you know, his friend Artie Lang, his friend from Dirty Work, his friend from a long time ago. I saw one of his on YouTube. I listened to one of his interviews recently, and he just didn't sound like himself. He just didn't sound like himself at all, and I almost feel that he knew something that we didn't know. I think in recent years, Norm has gotten his due. He finally got his due because he was so respected among other comedians. And Letterman, like the second to the last night of Letterman, Norm Macdonald you know, kind of gave him a farewell set, and you know, it was very heartfelt, and you know, I think that kind of propelled him further, and he really started getting his due as a great comedian in the last 10 years or so, and especially the last few years. And I honestly, and having followed his career as closely as I have, I think that he will. That was his dream. He wanted to be the best comedian of all time. That was his goal. He had his blinders on. He wanted to be. That was it. He was driven to be the best comedian of all time, and I think he did that. I think Norm Macdonald is going to go down as the best, at least the best stand-up comedian of all time, and it's 61 years old. Just horrible. And I didn't know him. I didn't know him personally, but I felt like I did. His son Dylan, his other family members. Your dad meant a lot to a lot of people. He meant so much to me. And I know I didn't know your dad, and I didn't, you know, but I felt like I knew him. And he was, you know, with my channel, I would. With my YouTube channel, which is my fledgling YouTube channel, I would always have this internal debate. Should I talk about politics, or should I try to be more like Norm, which is just being very loose and just light material, because Norm Macdonald was always very light material. Always, is it funny? Is it, you know? And he always tried to stay away from heavy material because it's not funny. So I always had this internal debate of whether I was trying to make my channel like more funny, because I really, you know, I like to laugh. I like comedy, comedians, or making it more heavy. And he was always in the back of my mind. Always in the, you know, you're talking about politics too much. You're getting too heavy. This isn't funny. Because and in the end, I was just like, you know what? You're never gonna be Norm Macdonald. You want to be Norm Macdonald? You are never ever gonna be Norm Macdonald. There's only one Norm Macdonald, and you're not him. And so I decided recently to go in a different direction. But he was always back there. Just a horrible loss. Horrible loss.